we've got quite a year and quite, I guess, quite a last month or so too. We've
Yeah,
got Horizon, Garfield, yeah, all kinds of things.
it's been wild. It's very lucky to be busy and but yeah, it's been crazy. We just finished Horizon 2 also.
Yes,
So which comes out in a month or something. So
yeah, and
crazy.
and
It's
and what a cool movie. And you gotta. I mean, I know you worked with Kevin Costner a lot, but what just to have a guy with that kind of vision, who always has he has very specific vision, and
yes.
it comes back to you, and you get to see firsthand just the love and care that went into this one, right?
I do, and it came to me through such a kind of fluky left channel. I don't know if you know this, Paul, but I've told this story a couple of times. It, all this happened about a year ago, the Mother's Day before our very last one that we just had. So a year and a half, year and plus 3 months ago. And Kevin called me out of the blue because I hadn't spoken to him in a while. We'd worked on Hatfields and McCoys, and that was great, but that was like a few years before. Called me one day on Mother's Day, happened to be Mother's Day, and said that he's got this movie. Of course I knew about the movie, and that he had hired someone. It wasn't quite working out. What was my life like? Could I jump in? And I said, of course. So ever since then till right now, the day before the first one opens, it's been just a journey and a fun journey. He's such a great guy. I like to tell people, Kevin is the guy you hoped he'd be. He's that guy.
Yes.
He's collaborative. He's fun. He's visionary. Great director. And yes, the cool thing is he knows what he wants and, leaves it up to the people he's working with to kind of interpret that and make it into, interpret his ideas, his vision into what we do.
Yeah.
So he's just been a joy to work with.
Yeah. That's so cool. And also because there's so much music to it, there's so many moving parts too. I
Oh
mean,
my God, Paul, you have no idea. Wall to wall is pretty much the way it's,
yeah.
you know, the way it's described, but in a great way. There's everything from, the score, which takes a lot of twists and turns, and sometimes we focus on our native people's, sort of point of view, and sometimes we're focusing on settlers, and then there's Kevin's character who is this great character where he all he has is what's on his horse and what's on his back. And uh, Kevin told me once early in the process, I said, well, tell me about Hayes. That's the guy's name. He says trouble finds him. And it's so true. It's sort of like no matter what he tries to do, trouble finds him. And so for me, you can imagine, it's been really fun exploring all these different avenues.
hmm And what do you suppose it is that's so special about this movie that people are about to see? Because it is special.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. It's a long movie, but long movies are, if they're well done, I think people like long movies. Oppenheimer being one. Um, lately, uh, I think what's special about this movie, and it's a great question. I think what's special about it is that I think that people will be very interested to learn more about this period in our country's development. It was such an interesting period from the Civil War beginning, uh, then Civil War ending, then the Indian Wars, and everything in between. Settling the West. Um, it's an interesting sort of overview. You get to meet all the characters in number one. I would say it that way. You get to meet all the different characters, the settlers, our native peoples, and all of it is going to be sort of tied together as these films go on. Having just finished number two, you really get to know more about the characters that you've really become invested in.
Mhm.
So I think people, it's a journey, you know. It's a beautiful journey. It's full of danger. It's, you know, there's good, there's bad, there's everything in the middle. Uh, and yet it's a slice of life of this period of time where there wasn't law and order, you know, there weren't cell phones there. You know, most of the time people had to hopefully get a meal, you know, during the day, maybe. And the settlement, it's about the settlement of the West. It's about these towns that maybe some of us don't think about much. You know, how did this town of Horizon in the movie start? Well, it started with a guy with a stake, pounding a stake in the ground. And that's how the film starts. And you realize, oh my God, then that can turn into any great city of the United States and sort of where we are now. So I'd say it's just a wonderful uh 3 hours of having some fun, seeing beautiful visuals, a lot of
Mhm.
great action. You're learning a story, you're learning about people from the period in time, and I can't say enough about it. It's quite the event. I'd say it's
Yes.
not even a film; it's an event, I think.
Mhm. Absolutely. And you know, you've got your choice of great projects to work on, and I know you're in the middle of everything right now. And, you know, people have been looking up to you for years and going, "That's what I want to do." Like, what a great career! But what kind of advice do you give them? Because it's certainly not easy, but you make it look easy.
Oh man, thank you. You're so cool. You always ask great questions. I'm the luckiest guy around. You know, I started doing this. I remember I used to play in a rock and roll band when I was a kid. Had dreams of being that person, you know, on stage somewhere, forum or something, and here in LA. I've just been the luckiest, most fortunate guy you can ever imagine because I've got to do a lot of different kinds of things, from comedies to romantic comedies to kind of scary movies, thrillers. Um, I've done pirate movies, you know. I've done um, movies from different holidays. You can pick them. Elf, Hocus Pocus, Mother. I even did a film called New Year's Eve and Mother's Day. So the advice, great question. I think my best advice is simply this, and we've been talking about it lately, my wife and I, about just trying to stay current. I mean, the best thing I think we any of us can do is you want the phone to ring. You want to try to stay current, make people fall in love with you and go, hey, maybe I want to call Paul back and do that. You know, I think it's a lot of that. It's obviously learning your craft. That's number one. If you can learn how to write music in any style, even if you may not like that style, it's important. So longevity, I guess, is what we're talking about. Um, and I've spoken a lot to different people, especially lately, about longevity. You look at John Williams, for instance, who I know we all greatly admire.
Yes.
Here's a guy in his 90s. He's stayed relevant this whole time, and you wonder how. Well, I think it's because he writes great, beautiful music, of course, but he also has a knack, I think, of of connecting with people on a deep level and intellectually and also emotionally through his music. So I would say one of the biggest things is try to figure out how you become that person that has longevity.
Mhm.
And if you're lucky, if you're really lucky like me, you get every now and then you get a phone call from someone like Kevin Costner and says, "Come ride a horse with me," you know, and let's go out on the plains. So it's all
Yeah.
those things wrapped up, Paul. You know, you're a young guy, you got a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, Um, so you like this? My co-host Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, what you know, caught the Hail Mary,
Yes,
went in the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
yeah, I love
and
Drew Pearson. Yeah.
yes, well, he wanted me to make sure that I asked you your Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career you had to go for it and it worked out for you.
Oh, dude, what a great question. Thanks for that, Drew. big cowboy fan. My grandson's named Dallas. So
Oh,
there you
yes.
go. Um, I do have a Hail Mary moment, and that's a very cool question. Never got that one. That's
Yeah.
good. Um, I'll tell you what it was. So I was working with Mel Gibson on a movie called The Passion of the Christ, and
Right.
it was, very arduous, tough movie to do. It was just there's a lot, very deeply emotional, lots of, you know, yin and yang of that story. And really honest with your viewers, and you and Drew, that there was a point where I really wasn't getting a theme that I needed. The theme I needed was the theme for Mary in that movie. Tried over and over and over. And it's one of those things keeps you up at night, wake up in the middle of the night, you think you have something, you hum it into your phone, like I do. I don't know if anybody else does that. But long story short, finally woke up with something in my head, demoed it at what I thought was a crucial moment because I was either I thought Mel was either going to fire me or I'd quit or something because it was just really hard. I wasn't getting it. And lo and behold, I came up with this little tune and I demoed it with a very good friend of mine. Lisbeth Scott is a great singer. She's been with me on many movies. We demoed it, played it for Mel, and he used to sit behind me in my studio that you can see right behind me. And when I would turn around, normally Mel would be like, "Yeah, I like it," but and he'd give me notes. I turned around after we demoed that theme, and he was crying, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And then we all teared up, and
Wow.
so that was my Hail Mary, and he let me continue, and very thankful for that because working with him on that movie was an incredible journey, one that I treasure. So that was my Hail Mary moment where I thought I was going to be fired, maybe quit, and played for Mel, and the floodgates open. So I bet for Drew, I put the analogy that you, you somehow you got five guys on top of you, which he's done many times, and you just get that one-handed catch,
Yes.
and so that's how it was for me.
Ah, that's good. Well, part of that is that outlook, and we talk about that success mindset that you have to have, even if you're not feeling it. And of
Yeah.
course, us creative types are often notoriously hard on ourselves. So, is there something you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on the right path?
God, another great question. It's tough, isn't it, Paul? We all
Hmm.
get in our own heads a lot. My good friend, I'm not name dropping, but he's a good friend of mine, Robert Rodriguez, the great filmmaker who I worked
Great
with
time.
on many movies, Sin City,
Hmm.
uh, Spy Kids, to name a couple. He's so zen and has that great podcast that he's sort of my Yoda in a weird way. Like he's written books, he's done his podcast about the creative process. And one of the things that Robert talks about is flow. And so to answer your question, flow is everything. At least it is for me, meaning if you can kind of tune out a lot of the other noise and kind of get in your lane, and I guess it's like you get in your lane behind the wheel of a Ferrari and you're going and you're focused on the road. And that's what I try to do. It's really hard because you second guess yourself. I bet we all do it. But if you can kind of stay in your flow and on the path, I think you're going to be okay. And I'm old enough now and I've been doing this long enough where I know when I'm in my flow. And
Hmm.
it's funny because my wife will know that and my family knows that. And they'll know, like, sometimes I'll just be sitting and we're having dinner or whatever, and I'm just checked out. But they know it's not that I don't want to be there and interact, but that I'm kind of thinking about something I'm working on, and so it's getting in the flow for me. It's sitting at my keyboard right over here and trying to bang out tunes and ideas. And then, if 8, 9 hours, 10 hours go by and I realize, oh my God, I've been sitting here that long, then I know I'm in my flow. I hope that makes sense. It's like, it's just, I bet you're the same way. So, some days just like, and other days, but if you can stay in that and recognize it when it happens and then try to figure out a way to stay there when you need to, I think that's the biggest thing. But certainly we all second guess ourselves.
Of course. Well, as a retired musician myself, I actually really, the thing is, inspiration just kind of comes to you sometimes, and sometimes it's not there. And I'm curious to know where yours does come from. Is it from the visuals that you get from them,
Great
or just from
question.
anything?
Oh, no, great question. Somebody once asked me, a student, they asked me that. It was in a different way. They said, well, what if you're not feeling it that day? And I know you can relate to this. I, well, I sometimes I feel it, sometimes, but you have to still perform, right? Paul, you know that. There are days maybe we're not as inspired, but I do get inspiration from the visual. I'm a visual person, so when I see, as in Horizon, when I see these great, beautiful vistas and these incredibly interesting people, the Sienna Miller, who is amazing in Horizon,
Mhm.
fell in love with her the moment, of course, we all did when we've seen her work.
Yeah.
But especially for me, so I locked onto her in Horizon One, and that became my sort of my wedge in. I always have to find that. I don't know if with your work, Paul, you do that where you sort of latch on to something,
Hmm.
whether it's a written word or whether it's an interview, something said in an interview, your music, which by the way, I hope you're not retired. I hope you
Yes.
keep playing. But
Well,
it's that for me. It's I don't have time to wait for inspiration. So I now, again, lucky that I've been doing it long enough that now I just can sort of sit down, try to bang something out. May not be great that day, but one thing leads to another, one note leads to another. And then that's the mysterious part. Then at some point you have a melody, and I don't even know I still don't know how that works. I'm just so lucky that whatever that is from the cosmos, from God, whatever you want to call it, I still get these ideas. I still, I'll see Sienna Miller's character and I'll go, oh my God, and then start to pick out a theme for her. That's how it works. It's pretty simple. It's like banging out a tune. You're playing the chord changes and pretty soon you come up with something which is again all mysterious. Who knows how that happens? But that's how I do it. I can't to kind of put a period on what you're asking though. I don't. I can't wait for inspiration. I have to sort of create it. I
yeah.
have to sort of just do it.
Yeah, love that. Well, you've been working on so many great projects for so many years, and people ask you all the time. In fact, other artists will ask about certain things. I guess there's an artist named Domini who's asking about the Princess Diaries. Oh, what is it the people that ask about the most?
Thanks for mentioning Princess Diaries. Well, I don't. Again, Mr. Lucky, that's me. Um, I've been fortunate enough to, for instance, with Princess Diaries, first movie I did with Gary Marshall, who was a dear, dear, wonderful friend of ours. I think I worked with him for 15 years. I figured that out the other day. Um, Princess Diaries is always requested for weddings, which is great. So anybody that would like to use, you can use it. I love that. That's fantastic. Other people ask me about Elf a lot, especially during Christmas. That's become, again, luckily, a big fan favorite. They ask me about all kinds of things. They asked me about the passion, that theme that I related to you. That theme became the theme that people ask me about, which is a theme I wrote for when in that movie when Mary goes to Jesus and there's a theme, and that's the theme that saved my gig. And
Yeah.
they ask me about that about 90% of the time when they ask me about that movie.
Mhm.
Um, they ask me about Cutthroat Island,
Yeah.
big pirate movie I did many years ago with Gina Davis, which, was a big flop, by the
Yeah.
way. And it sunk the company that produced it. It sunk Carolco. You might know that story, Paul.
Yeah.
Uh, but nonetheless, it was a really amazing experience, and thankfully, the music is still kind of enjoyed by people, I think. Those are some of the ones they ask about. I'm trying to think if there are any others that are big, around Halloween, Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I've been really fortunate that those are some of the ones that people sort of like and ask me about.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then of course, now I can't wait to hear what you got coming up next for us. What do you have that we're gonna look forward to?
Thanks for asking. Well, you're right. Garfield's in the theaters right now still, and I'm,
Mhm.
I'm happy to say it's really doing well. Horizon, I can't wait for people to hear it. It if I had to pin down some what I think is some of my best work, I would say Horizon's way up there. So I
Yeah.
hope people like it. Then I just finished an animated film called In Your Dreams for Netflix, and it's a really interesting subject matter, which I can't spoil it, but it's about a brother, sister, the mom and dad are maybe going to break up,
Mhm.
and they discover this hidden world of dreamland.
Hmm.
And if they go to sleep and go to dreamland and they talk to the Sandman, they might be able to get all their dreams might come true. And of course, their dream is to keep their parents together. So that's a neat setup, and there are a lot of twists and turns. But that's a neat one coming out. And then I guess the last thing I'd mention is I have a major, big 8-hour mini series called The Gray House, which is coming in January,
Mhm.
and it's all about the women who really helped uh, the North win the war in the Civil War. And it's a great cast. I can't even tell you. It's so well done and well produced with some really great songs, like
Mhm.
with Willie Nelson's song and a Shania Twain song. So it's quite exciting. And past that, I'm just trying to take a vacation, as you can imagine, right
I know you deserve one. You've been working too hard, and you're
now.
still in the studio right now.
I am. I am. Got to get back. No, I'm just kidding.
It never ends. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we definitely appreciate your time, and we're going to tell everybody check out the film this weekend, and appreciate the great answers, and
Thanks,
looking forward
Paul.
to talking to you again very, very soon.
Oh, I'd love it. And I would just say, please go out and see it this weekend, whoever
Yes.
is interested. I think you're in for a treat, and you'd certainly make our weekend if we have a nice, successful run this weekend. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Okay. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Paul. Take
Thank you,
care,
John.
bud. Thank
Okay.
you,
You
man.
too.